If you hold a green card in the United States right now, stop whatever you are doing and listen very carefully, because the ground beneath your feet has just shifted. A major restructuring of U.S. immigration enforcement has taken effect, and unlike previous updates, this one did not come with a press conference or a public warning campaign. It is a silent, algorithmic change that threatens to unravel years, perhaps decades of your hard work. The vast majority of permanent residents have absolutely no idea this mechanism exists, and by the time they realize it is active, it will likely be too late to fix the data points that have already been logged against them. This is not fear-mongering. This is a technical reality of the modern surveillance state. The era of passive residency, where you could simply hold a card and stay out of trouble, is officially dead. It has been replaced by a system of active verification that places the burden of proof squarely on you every single day. What makes this moment so dangerous is the invisibility of the threat. In the past, immigration trouble was loud. You knew you were in trouble because you received a letter, a notice to appear, or a rejection. This new system works in the background, quietly aggregating data from sources you didn't even realize were connected to your immigration status. It evaluates your behavior continuously. Things that used to be harmless, like forgetting to update an address, staying abroad for 5 months instead of 6, or a discrepancy on a tax return, are no longer treated as minor administrative oversights. They are now treated as risk indicators. When enough of these indicators stack up in the algorithm, the system triggers a review that can lead to the revocation of your status without you even knowing the investigation has begun. We are Immigration News Desk, and our job is to expose the operational realities of the immigration system that the government keeps buried in policy manuals and back-end code. I am here to walk you through exactly what has changed, why the Department of Homeland Security has implemented this continuous vetting framework, and how you can firewall your residency against this digital dragnet. If you value your future in this country, you cannot afford to be passive anymore. The government has built a machine to watch you. Your job now is to understand exactly what it is looking for and ensure that when it looks at you, it sees a compliant, documented resident. To understand the severity of this situation, we have to analyze the history of how we got here. For the last 40 years, the United States immigration system operated on a model of trust but verify later. You received your green card, and unless you were arrested for a felony or attempted to re-enter the country after being gone for 2 years, you were largely left alone. The government's databases were siloed. The IRS computers did not talk to USCIS computers efficiently. State DMVs were disconnected from federal immigration databases. You could move apartments 3 times, forget to file an AR-11 change of address form, and nobody noticed for a decade because no human being had the time to check. That era of benign neglect created a false sense of security for millions of people. It made you believe that silence from the government meant safety. That assumption is now the most dangerous thing you can hold on to. Following the digitization mandates of the last decade and the integration of artificial intelligence into federal agencies, the Department of Homeland Security has moved to a model of interoperability. This means databases are no longer siloed. They are talking to each other in real time. Your tax records, your travel history from Customs and Border Protection, your employment data, and your address history are now being fed into a unified profile. The system doesn't need a human officer to pull your file anymore. The algorithm runs constant background checks, looking for anomalies. It is looking for what they call indicators of abandonment, or inconsistencies in domicile. This brings us to the first and perhaps most lethal trap in this new framework: the concept of silent abandonment. In the past, abandoning your green card was something you did actively. You moved away, or you signed a form giving it up. Now, abandonment is a mathematical calculation. The system uses the Arrival and Departure Information System, or ADIS, to track your exit and entry dates with granular precision. It is not just looking at whether you stayed out for more than a year. It is looking for patterns of domicile shifting. Let's say you spend 5 months abroad, return to the US for 3 weeks to refresh your status, and then leave for another 5 months. Under the old rules, you might have thought you were safe because you never broke the 6-month or 1-year continuous absence rule. Under the new algorithmic scrutiny, this pattern flags you. The computer sees that you are spending the majority of your time outside the US. It flags your profile for a residency test the next time you enter the country. When you land at JFK or LAX, the officer isn't asking random questions. They are reading from a script generated by your travel pattern. They are looking for a confession that your real life, your job, your house, your heart, is actually abroad. If you admit that, you can lose your status right there at the airport. This surveillance extends deeply into your financial life as well. This is the tax trap that catches thousands of unsuspecting residents. As a lawful permanent resident, you are a U.S. tax resident for life, regardless of where you live physically. You must report your worldwide income to the IRS. In the past, if you filed as a non-resident to save money on taxes, or if you failed to report a foreign bank account, immigration might not have noticed until you applied for citizenship 5 years later. Now, the interoperability between the IRS and DHS means this discrepancy can trigger an immediate flag. Filing as a non-resident on your taxes is legally considered a formal abandonment of your green card. The system sees this tax filing and essentially says, this person has declared they do not live here. You cannot claim tax ignorance when the systems are linked. The mechanism that binds all of this together, and the thing you need to prepare for immediately, is the new centralized digital portal. The government is rolling out a dashboard for permanent residents that is marketed as a convenience, a way to renew cards and pay fees online. Do not be fooled by the marketing. This portal is a compliance tracker. It is designed to require periodic check-ins or data validations. Think of it like a digital roll call. The plan is to eventually require residents to log in and confirm their status, address, and employment. If you fail to do so, or if the data you enter conflicts with what the Social Security Administration has on file, your account gets flagged. This active verification model fundamentally changes the nature of your status. You are no longer just holding a card that expires in 10 years. You are maintaining a digital identity that must be kept current. This is where the notorious address gap comes into play. Under Section 265 of the Immigration and Nationality Act, every non-citizen is required by law to report a change of address within 10 days of moving. Most people ignore this. They think it is a formality. It is not. Under the new system, your address is the anchor of your identity. If the government sends a notice to appear or a request for evidence to an old address and it bounces back, you are marked as absconding. We are seeing cases where individuals are denied naturalization not because of a crime, but because they failed to maintain a valid address history. The system interprets this as a lack of good moral character or a willful failure to adhere to the law. Why is the government doing this now? You have to look at the macro picture. There is a massive backlog in the immigration courts and USCIS processing centers. There is also a realization that millions of green card holders have effectively left the United States but still hold valid cards, clogging the system and creating administrative blind spots. The government wants to clear the rolls. They want to identify stale residents and revoke their status to streamline the system. By automating the detection of non-compliance, they can strip status from thousands of people without ever holding a costly court hearing, simply by inducing them to surrender their cards when confronted with their own data. It is a strategy of attrition through enforcement. So, how do you survive in this environment of total information awareness? You have to professionalize your residency. You need to treat your green card not as a right that you own, but as a revocable license that requires constant maintenance. The first step is a ruthless audit of your own data. Before you enter any information into a government portal, you must ensure it matches your reality across every aspect of your life. Pull your driver's license, your tax returns, your lease agreements, and your employment records. Do they all tell the same story? Does your driver's license address match your USCIS address? Does your tax return list your US address? Consistency is your shield. If there are discrepancies, you are feeding the algorithm the exact data it needs to flag you. You need to start building what we at Immigration News Desk call a residency binder. This is your defense package. If you travel frequently, You cannot rely on your word alone to prove you live here. You need a paper trail. Keep your utility bills, your car insurance policies, your gym memberships, and your library cards. You need to be able to prove, at a moment's notice, that your center of gravity is in the United States. When the algorithm questions your residency, you answer with overwhelming evidence. You want to be able to show a CBP officer, "Here are my electric bills for the last 12 months. I live here. My life is here." Furthermore, you must respect the 10-day rule regarding address changes. If you move, file the AR-11 online immediately. Do not wait. Print the confirmation receipt and save it physically and digitally. That receipt is your proof that you complied with federal law. It is your defense against a claim that you are hiding or absconding. Do not rely on the post office forwarding your mail. USCIS does not forward official notices. You must update them directly, or you risk missing the one letter that could determine your future. For those of you who must travel for extended periods, perhaps for work, to care for an elderly parent, or for education, do not gamble with the 6-month rule. The re-entry permit strategy is your only safe harbor. If you know you will be gone for a long time, apply for a re-entry permit on Form I-131 before you leave the United States. This document tells the system, "I am not abandoning my status. I have a valid reason to be gone, and I intend to return." It freezes your residency status in a safe mode for up to 2 years. It pauses the algorithm's abandonment clock. Yes, it costs money and takes time to process, but it is infinitely cheaper than hiring a lawyer to defend you in deportation proceedings because an officer at the airport decided you abandoned your home. There is a psychological trap here that catches the most well-intentioned people. It is the trap of complacency. You think, "I'm a good person, I work hard, I pay my taxes, they won't come for me." You need to understand that the system does not care if you are a good person. It cares if you are a compliant data set. The algorithm does not have empathy. It has parameters. The people who lose their status in this new era won't be criminals. They will be people who didn't read the fine print, who let their guard down, and who ignored the digital reality of modern immigration enforcement. We also need to address the naturalization exit. The only way to truly escape this surveillance grid is to become a U.S. citizen. Once you are a citizen, you are no longer subject to residency tests, address reporting requirements, or the threat of deportation for administrative errors. Citizenship is the ultimate firewall. However, applying for citizenship triggers a total review of your entire immigration history. If you have been non-compliant for the last 5 years, if you have gaps in your address history, unpaid taxes, or long unexplained trips, applying for citizenship can actually backfire. It can alert the system to your failures and lead to removal proceedings instead of a passport. You must ensure your record is spotless before you file that N-400 application. This brings us to the most critical piece of advice I can give you. Do not navigate this alone. The rules are changing faster than the public announcements. At Immigration News Desk, we monitor these algorithmic shifts so you don't have to guess. We track the policy manuals, the back-end updates, and the field guidance issued to officers to give you the tactical advantage. The government is building a machine to watch you. Your job is to make sure that when it looks, it sees exactly what it expects to see. If you are just now realizing that your record might have some of these red flags, do not panic, but do not wait. Start gathering your documentation today. Check your past tax filings. Review your travel dates. If you find errors, consult with a qualified immigration attorney to fix them proactively. It is always better to come forward and correct a record than to wait for the government to find the error and accuse you of fraud. The window to correct these silent errors is closing as the systems become more integrated. This restructuring of the immigration apparatus is not a temporary measure. It is the permanent modernization of the Department of Homeland Security. They are moving toward a frictionless, automated enforcement model where non-compliance is identified instantly. You cannot operate with an analog mindset in this digital environment. You must be proactive, you must be organized, and you must be informed. If this deep dive analysis opened your eyes to the new reality of being a permanent resident, hit that like button. It tells the algorithm that we need more truth and less fluff in the immigration conversation. Share this video with your community. Send it to your family group chats, your colleagues, anyone holding a green card who is asleep at the wheel. You could be the reason they avoid a devastating surprise at the border. Knowledge is the only defense against a system designed to catch you slipping. Stay vigilant, stay documented, and keep your record clean. We will be here to track the next shift and ensure you are prepared.